Postgame show of the season. JD, not what I thought we would be saying with a minute and 15 seconds left in this one. And a heartbreaker. I don't really, I can't think of a better term or word than that. Just we had it, and then we didn't, and just couldn't execute down the stretch against a great, Houston team. But this was Duke's game to win, and we didn't execute down the stretch.
No, and you know, a great Houston team at doing what they do in close games in terms of applying pressure. And if you're, you know, we couldn't hold on to a 14-point lead, we couldn't hold on to a 6-point lead. We even had a last second shot. So my hat's off to Houston for the furious comeback, and deservedly so. It'll be a great matchup with Florida. They are tenacious. They never say die, and we had all the pieces. We had the lead, but down the stretch, that's basketball. It's just the way it is.
Yeah, I'm glad you said credit to Houston because they, as much as it was Duke made errors down the stretch, Houston also forced some of those. And whether it was, LJ Cryer for the first 25-30 minutes of the game, and then Emmanuel Sharp the last couple minutes of the game, they hit tough shots. So, give credit to Houston for that. Um, it's been, I'll say this. Well, we're gonna do like a post-season, wrap up show. But for right now, just my immediate thoughts, having just lost this tough game in the Final Four. It's been a hell of a ride this season. This team has given me a lot of joy. They've been a lot of fun to watch. How connected they are on and off the court, and not only this team, but doing this show with you and being able to connect with everybody. I'm sure we'll check the chat soon, but a lot of you guys have been with us from the beginning, and it's been a lot of fun. It's made it even more fun to watch this team, and I think that's why it just hurts just that much more the way it ended, because I figured this team could lose, but I don't know. I didn't think it could happen like that. I guess, and for the most part, for the first 38 minutes, 39 minutes, a great game by Duke. Tremendous defense for the first 30 minutes. Good offensive execution for the most part. Did a good job moving the ball. Khan was hitting good shots. Coop really took over in the second half. We had some really awesome contributions from guys, especially in the first half, like freaking Caleb Foster with his defense and rebounding, and just a lot of great contributions up and down the board, and just couldn't close it out at the end. And credit to Houston for executing, late stretch, late clock, late game situations, and this is gonna be a tough one. It's gonna be hard to watch Monday night. I'll say that it's gonna be hard to watch.
Um, you know, the knock against Duke was that we don't we didn't know if they could win in a close one. And they came, yes, they blew a 14-point lead, a 6-point lead, and they still had a shot to take the lead with 3 seconds left when Coop hit the front of the rim. And, you know, it was a matchup of two number ones. And I'm Coach Shire. I'm in the locker room. I know it's going to be hard to say this, but it is one of those games where it's simply not worth going over. Here's the mistake that we made at this point of the game. It's to understand the totality. It was like a series of waves, and you're standing in the ocean and you think you got it and you think you got it and they just keep knocking you down, and then you finally think you got the last one in terms of timing and it knocks you down as well. But it's not because you had any fear of getting in the ocean. And it was a matchup of two number ones, and we knew that if Duke was going to win the national championship, they were going to have to beat two number ones, and they lost. They came up oh so short in the semifinals, and it was an absolutely great year. But um, it's a tough way to lose it. There's no question about it, and I'm sure lots of people will have spent lots of time dissecting this second by second, minute by minute. But it, it, you know, great performances by Duke, sort of in control, and then not, and it's just like you felt it slipping away.
It's one of those things too where it's like if that situation up, I mean, pick your point of the game. Up by 6 points with like a minute 15 to go, whatever mark you want to pick, like 8 times out of 10, 9 times out of 10, if you were to run that situation over, even against a great Houston team, Duke probably wins the game. But it just happened to be on this night, it was Houston's night. And hats off to them. They're going to move on to the championship game against Florida. Um, yeah, just a tough way to go out for this team.
It was interesting that Coop played a really terrific game. Will be remembered for missing the shot that could have given him that moment of LeBron or Michael greatness. That in the
Yep.
semifinal he hits the shot that gives him. Instead, he comes up short, and I feel bad for Cooper Flagg that way. I don't feel bad for him in terms of his marketability, his dollars, and his ability to move on in the pros and in the lottery and all of that. The young man is set up. Um, I want to hats off to Con Knipple, which I don't know, Jack. You'll take us through the statistics, but close to a double double. I think he was at 7 or 9 rebounds. He
Yeah.
really was in great place. Proctor never really got it going, and they never got an alley oop to Mal, not one. They got the ball inside to him. He dunked once, but in a
He
game in which we thought the height differential could have given us the opportunity, they had a very, very good defense to keep Mal away on offense.
Well, I actually didn't think that part of our game would be there so much because of how good of a defense they are. And then if you remember, like the wingspans of Tugler and Francis kind of made up for the gap in height, especially with Tugler's defensive ability. We did have one lob to Mal, but it was like I think Tugler fouled him, so he couldn't convert it. But I think you hit the nail on the head with Proctor. I think that was the difference in this game. I've got the stats pulled up. Um, let's just start. I'll just start with Proctor, who he had a really good tournament. I would say the Arizona game wasn't great for him, and then this game, he was 2 for 8 from the field, 0 for 4 from three, and then he missed the front end on the 1-and-1 at the end of the game there. So he finished with 7 points, 2 assists, and even he had his 3 pointers. I know the one at the end of the first half was a good look. I think he had a couple other ones that were good open shots that he just didn't knock down. Some of that you could say like law averages. He was hitting everything the first weekend. He kind of came back down to earth, but that was the difference tonight because Cooper. I mean, a lot of this was I think in the second half, but he had 27 points, 7 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 steals, 3 blocks. To your point on Con Knipple, he had 16 points, 7 rebounds, 2 assists, and a steal on 5 of 9 shooting, 3 of 5 from three. He was awesome. Mal only had 6 points. He had no rebounds. He really struggled on that part of the game, and one of the keys coming into this one that we didn't do a good enough job on was the offensive rebounding. Houston finished with 18 offensive rebounds. So even though in the beginning Duke they still did a great job not turning the ball over. Only 7 turnovers for the game. A lot of those were late in the second half, where Duke only had 2 turnovers through the first 30 minutes or so. Sion had a couple of those late turnovers. Certainly the one on the inbounds pass. 7 points, 5 rebounds for Sion, and a steal. Malik gave us good minutes. 4 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals. And that was all their scoring, off the bench. Foster, I thought, had good minutes in the first half. 4 rebounds and an assist. He couldn't get one to go down, though. And Gillis, I also thought, gave us good minutes in the first half. A couple of rebounds and a steal for Mason Gillis. Anything you want to take from there, JD, before we head to the chat?
Um, the fact that we didn't have a third offensive contributor, Cooper Flagg was otherworldly until even the last shot. I'm sorry that he missed it, but it wasn't his Michael Jordan moment where he hits the shot from the side. But and K2, boy, did he play well, I thought. And Foster's aggressiveness, we were texting each other and saying, "Who is this guy?" And it was interesting that I don't recall him having that kind of minutes or time in the second half.
Agreed.
Clearly, Coach Shire was going to go with the experience of Sion James and Mason Gillis. And it was that's basketball. It all seemed to be working. We had a
Well,
14-point lead. We had a 6-point lead with a minute 14, and we had a shot which would have enabled us to take the lead. And it just didn't happen. And that's why I say I credit Houston. Their defense is just fantastic. And Cryer was awesome. You had pointed this out that if they had a chance, they're just ridiculous from 3-point range. It's not like they hit all night because they had 70 points, but they definitely hit timely, difficult threes, and certainly down the stretch hit their free throws. I love when who was it that wound up on the free throw line? That's a 62% free throw shooter for Houston down the stretch.
at the end,
Yeah.
Jawan Roberts. And I'm glad you went there because, you said we didn't have a third scorer. And I'm sure Proctor is really, he can't be feeling good right now. So I'm not trying to beat up on the guy. But I think when you look at the box score, Cooper Flagg, 27 points. LJ Cryer, 26 points. Emmanuel Sharp, 16 points. Con Knipple, 16 points. Juwan Roberts, 11. There was no other Duke player in double figures. And I think that was, and it didn't necessarily have to be Proctor. We never got the Isaiah Evans, 3-3-pointer game this tournament. He didn't get really any time to do it, so I don't think it was his fault. But we didn't have that third guy tonight, and it's not always Proctor. Sometimes it's Malawach, to your point, with the lobs. Sometimes it's Sion James. Sometimes it is Isaiah Evans or a Mason Gillis. We just never got that multiple 3-point game from those guys, and so it put more pressure on Flagg and Knipple. And speaking of Flagg, I thought even before that last shot, he had a couple, like there was a lefty layup that was in and out. He had a turnaround jumper that was in and out. it just it didn't fall. They just didn't fall down the stretch for Duke. All right, let's go to the chat, JD. One last time on our post game show here. It's been a hell of a ride with you guys. So Joe M's sad. We're sad too, Joe. Um, it's a tough one. Lawrence Freeman. Shout out to you guys, Joe, Lawrence. Good to have you guys on here with us. So Lawrence says, hell of a ride, guys. It was great talking with you two about this team this season. See you next season. We'll see it. We'll see you next season, Lawrence, and we'll still be covering all things that happen for Duke over the portal and some other basketball related stuff here on the channel. But we'll get back for sure into Duke stuff next season. And then Lawrence also says, you have something, JD?
Yeah, I was just going to say that to you, Lawrence. We still have the North Carolina Revenge Tour, and that goes into the plus column. Winning the ACC tournament without two of our best players, that's in the plus column. We go 5 games deep in the Shire era, so that Jack, what is it? We get into the field of 32, then we get into the last year was the Elite 8. We're at the Final 4 with Coop. So, yes, to all of our listeners who've been just terrific people and so much fun to do this with. Can't wait to next year when we're doing this with the Boozer twins.
It will be a lot of fun, and we'll definitely be previewing that, talking about all the moves that happen in the portal, who stays, who goes. But we'll have plenty of time for that. I think we'll do a recap show of the season. Probably we'll give ourselves a few days, a little bit later this week, and then on to next year.
Have you made up your mind whether you want to be on after the championship?
Have just to talk about it?
Talking ball.
I'm not sure. As of right now,
I know, a little hard right now.
Yeah, okay. A little hard. It's gonna be hard enough to watch the game. Let me think about that. Ask me again on Monday. Lawrence says Proctor has to make those free throws at the end, and it's unfortunately it's been a little bit of a bugaboo for Proctor. What was it? It was the North Carolina game where he missed one, if I remember correctly, as well. He's had a little bit of trouble at the free throw line, and so I'm very curious what he ends up doing now. Speaking of potential moves, but yeah, I'm sure he doesn't feel good. And but listen, it was a great season by Tyrese Proctor. He made major improvements this year, from his first 2 seasons, and so the overall game of Tyrese Proctor was much better. The Wake Up 0-11, great season. Salute to Houston, another Duke choke job. It's been great watching you all this year.
Your choice of words. There's no question that we had 3 opportunities there and could have, should have, but that's just basketball. It's, we didn't play in enough of these games where the pressure and that this was the knock on this Duke team. This was absolutely the knock on this Duke team.
And they had not only did they have a chance to disprove that, they had multiple chances down the stretch, and didn't. There's no excuses. There's no. They just didn't, and it was a combination of Houston, great execution, and Duke, bad execution. And I think truth somewhere in between as to who you want to give credit to or blame, right? Dom be knowing, Sion and Malawach, yikes, and Proctor, yikes. Yeah, it was a
I,
tough finish for
it's,
those guys.
I think that was very kind of you to put it as yikes.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's right. JD, it was very kind of Dom to say that. Joe M. You're right about the first half with all the contributions. I'm not sure what happened. Seemed after that, Gillis, technical foul, Shire didn't sub anyone except Malik Brown for Malawach. And I'm glad you brought up the first half because the one thing I'm trying to like analyze the game a little bit here, get over my the fandom and the tough loss. And I'm trying to see through the trees, if you will. And I'm glad you said that, Joe, because the end of the first half is really hurt us, giving up those three threes to Houston when they had no offensive rhythm. And I think one of them was contested, but I think the other two were pretty much open. And then Proctor gets his open look and doesn't convert. And instead of it being a Duke, maybe a 9 point lead or even a 10 plus point lead, it's a 6 point lead at the half. But even with that being said,
We
Duke was
still
up.
got to 14
Yeah.
at
So,
the 8:17 mark. Um, we get to 14 points and lead, and then Sion comes back in after he'd banged his head, and then immediately Crier hits a three, and
yeah.
it's 11-point lead. So they had answers, but we we took the air out of the ball too early.
Yep. I think it's a fair thing to bring up because basically once we had 10 points in the final 10 and a half minutes, and we started to take the ball out around the 10-minute mark. The air out of the ball out, that doesn't even make any sense. The air out of the ball at around the 10-minute mark. And listen, we've done that we just did that against Alabama and it worked well. But I think the problem with that against Houston is that made us go up against their set defense, and that's exactly what they want. And then they start getting stops, and they got some momentum. And then there's a couple other series of plays that I'm sure we're gonna get into here. But that's a good point, JD. That was not a good this decision by Shire, and I think so much so that even if Duke would have hung on to win this game, it would have been something we would have talked about if Duke would have won and said, man, that was one of the reasons why this game got so close.
There's a certain coach that Shire succeeded that was known for taking the air out of the ball towards the end of these important games. And when you have the offense that Duke has, I, I, with playing against a fabulous defensive team, there's a lot you can question, but we lost.
CJ Cav, man, this one hurts. Thanks for all the content you two put out for us. I can't believe all the losses have been the same way. And that's a good point, CJ. They really have all been the same way. Um, I'm trying to remember. It's been some time since that Clemson loss. What I'm trying to remember to let you guys in on what I'm thinking of is like, did we have the lead in the Clemson game? I know the Kansas game we were kind of fighting back in that one, but I know the Kentucky game was very similar to this one where we had a lead in the second half. They got back into it. I don't think it was as big of a lead with as little time to go, but You're spot on, CJ. They were all the same. They're all the same way, and and I think in all of them, you know, Coop gets an opportunity at the end. He doesn't convert it, but I think the national media will latch onto that and say, you know, Coop wasn't clutch or whatever. But I think us Duke fans will understand. We understand, all of us who watched this whole season, that the only reason they're in that spot is because of Cooper Flagg and certainly tonight Con Knipple. And I want him shooting that shot. You know, if this team theoretically would have played another game, that's why I want shooting that shot again. There's no question about it. Um, it didn't go down. You know, as you said, that's basketball. And the only thing that hurts is that we'll never see this team again. You know, three of these guys are going to go be lottery picks. Two of these guys are out of eligibility, and we'll see what happens. With the rest. The method, OMG, that stung. And Flagg didn't foul, by the way. I agree.
No.
He didn't. It was a bad call. It was a bad call. And I wish I could sit here and say like that call really cost us, but the way we were playing in those last few minutes, maybe Flagg, we get the ball, maybe he hits a couple free throws, and then I don't know. The way that was going, Houston probably would have hit a shot and got it to overtime. It was just it felt like all the momentum had gone to Houston. So, but it wasn't a foul. It just wasn't a foul, especially with how physical that game was. The wake up, 0-11. Hope Isaiah stays and Proctor goes. Hard for me to blame Shire here. You want to take that one, JD?
There's definitely some coaching decisions in the stretch there that you're going, I suspect when we go and watch Shire's post game, he's going to take a lot of responsibility for the 14-point lead and then the 6-point lead. He's going to take a lot of responsibility for the inability to execute down the stretch. And so I, I don't have to blame him. He's going to blame himself. Some of the players didn't execute either with the ball going off their legs. This was not a game decided by the refs. I just can't go there. We had substantial leads with time left, and I'm not going to go there to blame the refs for this game. And Shire does have a little bit of explaining to do. One of the things they said in the very beginning of it was, how many March Madness games has Kelvin Sampson coached versus how many March Madness games has Shire coached? And I give Shire a lot of credit. That's why I say in the beginning, he's taken us further each of his 3 years. Now, maybe it's his player personnel and everything, but look, the knock on Duke was they didn't have the competition that the Big 12 or the SEC had. And yet there he is within a whisker, despite having the lead taken away from him, of moving on to the final game. And that's with everyone saying Duke doesn't know how to play against them. I've said it, that's for certain. I've said they haven't had to be night in, night out in the SEC. But there's something to be said about his coaching, but it'll get better.
All right, I'll try to answer what the wake up was saying in terms of Isaiah staying and Proctor going. As of right now, I would hope they both stay, but I understand that if they both stay, that means one of Foster or Harris is probably going to go in the portal. So I don't know. I probably need a few days to think about that, but I'm sure with how quickly a lot of this portal stuff happens, by the time I've thought about it, things will have already happened. So we shall see. The method, we gave that game away, had a 20-point lead and threw it away. Yeah, I don't know if we got up to 20, but we certainly threw it
the
away.
largest lead was 14.
Yeah. Nathan Mabe choked. Proctor just let us down. Yeah. Tough night for Tyrese. The method, it was still a banner year. It sure was. It was an incredible year. One of the all right. I can't remember this team because I was 3 years old, but from what I've been told, I think this is now going to go down to similar to like the '99 Duke team as one of the better teams to not win it all. And ultimately, this year with the four number one seeds, these were four of the best teams since Ken Palm has been doing his ratings since 2002. And there's no shame in losing to Houston. There is a bit of shame in how we lost to Houston.
Thinking we had the game, but looking at the four number one seeds having made it, and you could have made an argument for any one of the four winning the national championship. You only wish it didn't happen quite the way it did in our case.
The wake up, 0-11. Coop needed a little more help. Won't remember him for that miss. He played fine. He sure did. He just an awesome player. Just how many times? Okay, I mean I know it hurts to bring this up, but the and one layup that he had in the first half, I have no idea. I think it was in the first half. I have no idea how he got that to go in. The guy, I know a lot of the talk has been he needed to win the title for him to go down, in the conversation with Carmelo and Anthony Davis, excuse me, as the best freshman, of all time. And I think that's fair, to extent those guys won. They won the national title. I think that's fair. But I think he's right up there, probably just below them now, in terms of all the accolades that he got as the freshman for Duke. And I do think of all the Duke one and dones, he's been the best. I think that he's going to have a tremendous NBA career. I know you love Jason Tatum. I'm just talking about their freshman year at Duke, and not what they've done in the NBA, just their freshman year at Duke. And it's gonna be really fun rooting for Cooper, at the next level.
Agreed.
Trevor Royal, good game, fellas. Shout out to you, Trevor Royal, and shout out to all you guys, by the way. I want to say that again. Please subscribe to the channel. We're gonna keep pumping out basketball content, as much Duke content as we can, and we're gonna be back in full swing for next season for sure. Lawrence Freeman says Gillis's flagrant foul cost us severely. Would have been difficult time-wise for them to have to come back in time without that 5 or 6 point possession, whatever it was. Yeah, it was a 6-0 basically possession for them. I feel bad for Gillis because it was a basketball play, and it was unfortunate. But they had to call it based off of how they've called those things all year. So
surprised it wasn't a flagrant one based on the definition, because he wound up hitting him right in the head, and
It basically
It,
was. I think they ruled it a dead ball technical. So in effect, it was the same thing. They got two free throws in the ball. Um,
yep.
so
Right on that stretch there, Cryer had hit the three. We had our 14-point lead. Cryer hits the three. It goes to 11 points.
yep. Then
Um,
he goes 1 for 2 from
yep,
the line, and then they get a 2, if I remember correctly. And that was their 6-0 spurt.
yep. It was went to 10 points, and Cryer hit a two again, so it was down to 8. So it went from 14 to 8 in a matter of seconds.
Yeah. All right, let's keep going here, JD. Oh man, we got a lot. We got a lot to get through here, which is good. Good thing, good problem to have. Joe M. Yeah, that over the back wasn't much of a foul. The method, just stop. If I'm gonna kind of go, for some of the things we've talked about, JD, and then stop me at any point if you want to jump in, unless I stop here. Um, the method, I'm pulling for Houston now. Announcers didn't think Flagg fouled at the end. Proc needed to hit that front end of the 1-and-1. That hurt a lot. Joe M was also worried about the law of averages for Proctor after the first weekend. The wake up 11. I honestly think C. Foss outplayed Proctor. For you, JD, that you know who that is. Okay, cool. Just making sure. Yeah, I think we kind of talked about it. Surprised he didn't get a run really in the second half. Didn't think he got extended. Maybe he played a little bit, but I don't remember. I know Sion played better to start the second half, but I thought the way Foster was playing the first half, he should have got more minutes in the second half.
The problem was he wasn't offering any offense, while his defense was truly matching the aggression put forward by Houston.
The method, I don't get why they didn't do to Cryer what they did to Sears. He dropped 26. Um, yeah, well, okay. First off, I want to say me too, because in the preview I said we got to worry about Uzan and Sharp because we're gonna be just fine on Cryer. And boy, did I have that one wrong. And I think part of it was he got a wide open three to start the game off of an offensive rebound. And I feel like that helped him get a rhythm. Because then some of his threes he hit were open, but a few of them were tough shots that he was just hitting. And, he's a great player. I thought, yeah, I'm with you, the method. I thought we would do a better job defending him, and we just did not. There's
So I'm going to say that as we get deep, we have a tremendous track record of shutting down the opposition's best scorer. But now we're into the Final Four, the number one teams, and I truly am not surprised that Cryer had as good a game as he did. And if we were playing in the finals against Florida, we would have met the assassin,
oh,
Walter Clayton.
yeah, I'm glad you went there because watching what Cryer was doing, all I kept thinking of because I thought we were gonna win the game, was boy, we're gonna have to fix a lot because we're gonna have major problems if we're guarding Walter Clayton like we are LJ Cryer. And I was thinking along the same lines as you that man, there's just two. The one thing I will say compared to Sears is Cryer is willing to take the tough twos, the mid-range twos, and creates space with his step back, whereas Sears really isn't, and it's kind of coached out of his game, by Oates. Whereas Coach Sampson encourages his guys to take those shots, and I just felt like they did a better job of getting Cryer open. Houston that is, than Alabama did with Sears. But doesn't matter now, you know. On to the on to the next year. Um, Forever Royal. As long as Flagg is in a Duke jersey, you guys will be back. The wake up Flagg is out of here. I thought he said he was returning already. All right, this is just between them. Flagg's not coming back. But to your point, you know, from whatever it was a month ago, this is kind of the scenario in a magical world that could lead him to come back and say, "I want to, you know, one more." But I'm not gonna hold my breath on that one.
I I understand that. He said it twice. Would he want to play 1 year with the Boozer twins and take a shot at a championship as an 18 turn 19-year-old before he goes into the grind of the NBA and 100 games a year? He's still a kid. There's a part of me that will hold on to the tiny bit of hope that there is that we could see Cooper Flagg back again, because he's got, as they love to say, unfinished business.
All right, I'm now realizing that which is pretty cool. Our chat has developed into a separate conversation, so I'm gonna try to pick out the ones that are directed towards us here, JD. Let's see. Joe M says no way. Foss outplayed Proctor. Foss played great, but that's not even close. Foster was 0 for 3, and I think that's what you're saying. You know, offensively, he didn't give us anything. Proctor couldn't get his shots to go down. You know, and for most of the year, especially the last month and a half or so, he was getting those shots to go down. So I get it. I would ride with Proctor too. Just it wasn't his night. Richard Hedgepeth says this one hurts bad. The method says if it was close the whole game, it would have been worse. But it sucks to be winning for 36 minutes and lost in the last 4. I think, honestly, I think this is worse to have been winning for the first 36 minutes and losing the last 4 rather than a close game the entire way and then because it's like, oh, you know, it could have gone for either team, but to feel like you had it, you know, I was starting to think about the preview show for tomorrow and how we're going to guard Walter Clayton, and to have it slip away doesn't give enough credit to Houston. To have it taken away, I think, is a better way to put it, in the final minute. It hurts a lot. It just hurts a lot. Joe M, definitely a great ride with everyone. Love this channel and both of your guys' analysis. Such an amazing team, and very sad it's over. Can't wait to see the Boozer twins. Hope we get some guys back. Yeah, well,
You know, it's always the fun about Duke is that they'll be restocked. There is players that will choose to go there. The combination of the portal, NIL, the kids that they recruit, and so there will be a team that will take us into March Madness next year. And it'll always that's kind of the fun of Duke, is that it's a winning tradition. This one stings, and it definitely stings right now. And the idea that we're not playing Monday night is really tough, and it'll have to sink in for a while. But we'll be back next year into a deep run into March Madness.
all right, I'm gonna try to pick out a few more because for the most part, we've addressed a lot of these. The method says I feel really bad for Gillis. I don't even want to watch the presser. It's funny you say that. I'm with you. The method typically, even after the losses earlier in the season, I would want to watch the presser, but there's nothing to learn, you know. So I'll probably watch it in a couple days, but for right now, I'm with you. Just let me take a little bit of a break. Um, Joe says, can't believe couldn't inbound the ball to Khan or Cooper. The method free throws killed us in the end. What did we shoot from the free throw line? It's a great question. Um, 18 to 23. I mean, not terrible. Pretty good, honestly. But we didn't hit the
It
clutch
is
ones.
pretty good. And it's that crazy stat that I always love to talk to you about, which is what did you shoot in the final 2 minutes?
Yeah.
And we missed a couple of timely ones, and that's when it counts. When a 62% free throw shooter for Houston hits them both.
Yep. Let me see. Dun, 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 dun. Final KenPom rating was 36.6. Oh, we slid a bit on that one. We were at like 39 before this game. We were kind of a clear couple points ahead of even Houston, which was number 2. Jesus Cervantes says one more year for Flagg. Oh my. I know that's been your chant. Method says Duke reloads. Been doing it for years. We will be back. Oh my, a shame. Love this team, the players, the staff. Magical season, and a team deserving of a national championship. We all know the best team doesn't always win, but the way we lost after up 14 hurts. Yeah, it just does hurt. I agree. And they continue with the Gillis foul felt big. Wished we saw some more Evans and more Cephas, but I hurt the most for Tyrese. I'm not saying it's all his fault, but I know he's hurting after missing 4 threes and the 1-and-1 free throws. And
So let
just
me put
let
the
me
get
let
the
me just wrap up his comment.
sorry.
Thanks for the show. Hope you do it again next season. Go ahead.
Oh, we're doing it again next season. We're not even trying to go off the air. So, subscribe, share it with a friend, try to get more folks interested in the conversation, our favorite part. It has been great for the last 6 months having all of you along for the ride. But the Gillis, uh, technical at the end of the game, as bad as Gillis felt, how about the player on Houston who reached over and hit
Tugler.
the ball when Sion was trying to inbounds it? You want to talk? I mean, so the it's bad. Like that's why I'm saying I don't really feel like the refs. They even things out. It's the most you ever want from the refs is that we didn't lose this game because of the refs' calls. There was some timely calls that, wish we performed better, but we had a 14-point lead. We had a 6-point lead. I'm not going to go to bed going, oh my goodness, I can't believe the call. I get your point. I feel bad for Mason. I really
And
do.
and look, like we've got a bunch of people talking about the refs, and I get it. That last call wasn't a foul, but to your point, there was a bunch of not a bunch. There, I thought they did a fairly good job overall. And there was a couple of calls that went Duke's way, like when Houston was on a 6-0 run, Khan put his foot in between LJ Cryer's crossover. It was off Khan's foot, but it was Duke ball, and that was an important call that went for Duke. There was a couple that went both ways. The only time this tournament that I really felt the refs were bad and it was against Duke was the Arizona game, where I felt like there was just a lot of calls that went against Duke. But this game wasn't decided by that. This was decided by we couldn't execute down the stretch, we couldn't inbound the ball.
Couldn't protect our lead.
Yeah. Um,
Or, as I was saying, increase our lead.
or increase our lead, yes. Joe M. Should Shire have switched Sion when he was having problems inbounding the ball? I really don't know what Duke should have done there. It's a it's a good question. It's you want to know what, Joe? I'm glad you bring that up because I didn't think about this at the time. This is hindsight coaching, but I wonder why the inbounder wasn't Proctor because of our perimeter players, he's the worst free throw shooter on a percentage basis. Sion was just above 80%, Coop just above 80, and we know how good of a free throw shooter Khan is. So it's a very legitimate question. I think if you're gonna, especially after he struggled, a couple of times getting it in, I think, yeah, or I know you want, I know you want Cooper to inbound or to get the free throws, but his size and ability to see the court, maybe he should have been the one inbounding it. And then once he gets back in, if they haven't fouled the guy, like I think that's a great point, Joe. Like in terms of adjustments, I think that could have been an adjustment that Shire made, and we'll never know. And I won't know if they ask him about it for a few days because I'm not watching that presser. For a little bit, but maybe I will, and maybe I will, because I'm not gonna be able to go to sleep for a bit here. What do you think, JD?
Look, I actually was very conscious of it, saying why didn't they try to bring someone in? And I was initially thinking, you know, I was thinking someone. I went to someone like Mal, and then I was thinking, with his height, did he have the ability to send the pass to either Coop or, but they couldn't get free. They did. What I didn't understand was why the two of them weren't screening for each other in an effort to free up one of them so that they would get fouled. Coop
I,
and Khan.
on one of the inbound attempts, they did, but yeah, I don't. They didn't execute that
No,
well at all, and we talked about the size. That was one area where just throw it up higher, especially the one that Duke got the ball back and it was almost a 5 second call. Sion was trying to get it to Cooper and Sharp was behind him. Sharp 6'3", Cooper 6'8", 6'9". I didn't quite understand why Sion was like firing a bullet pass near his like waist as opposed to just throwing it up higher for Coop to go get it.
likely would have been fouled.
Yeah. Fabian's a Jet. JD, Jack, I'm sick, guys. He's heartbroken. We are too. It's just it's a tough one. The method says we reload. Joe M says he didn't think of it at the time either. Definitely hindsight, but a fair question. Was also maybe thinking giving it to Cooper for the height. Who knows? And then the wake up says, funny you mentioned that. I thought I saw Shire tell Sion you had a guy open. He didn't look happy. Interesting. I didn't notice that. Joe says he didn't notice that. You notice that?
No.
I mean, we
I'm not
probably
saying
missed it. Yeah, we probably missed it.
I'm not saying it didn't happen. I was like covering my eyes. So
Yeah, right. I'm with you. I was having a hard time watching. All right. All right. Before we wrap up, I wanna, we've done this a couple times, but specifically, and we're gonna have a year in review show in a couple of days. But to all you guys who are on the chat, especially the guys who've been here a few times, Joe M, the method, wake up, Lawrence Freeman, all you guys. I hope you guys stick with us. Check in with us throughout the summer. We'll definitely be back next year. Um, I know Wes isn't here so far. Pay the piper. But Wes was our winner, so we're gonna have to get him his scarf. And it's been a fun ride, guys. And it's a bummer that it ended this way, but we'll take a couple days. We're gonna do a full recap show later this week. And JD, any final thoughts here before we wrap up?
I love March Madness. I'm a fan. This has been great. It's been great doing it with you, young buck. But it is it's a 6-game winning streak, and we were playing in the 5th game. I mean, yeah, I'm sad we didn't make it to the last game and won the final 2. But as a fan, playing in the final 4, and each year Shire has taken us further than he did the year before. And am I sad about the way we lost? Yes. Am I proud and happy to be a Duke fan? Yes. And it gives me such intense pleasure. I mean, how else would we have been doing this for 6 months, several days a week, if we weren't fanatical fans? And it's nice. I mean, a lot of people, to all of our listeners, there's so many people that don't get it, what we do, and here we are doing a show, and you guys are all part of this. And I try to explain this to people, and they go, "What? Why would you talk about it like that?" And I go, "'Cause it's fun. I mean, and that means what comes with it is the ups and the downs, you know." Patty Mahomes didn't win the Super Bowl this year.
He's one of few. He'll be all right, and so will
He'll
Duke.
be all right, and so will Duke.
And so with that, one last time for the 2024-25 season on the post-game show here. Please, like this video, subscribe to the channel, leave your comments, share it with your friend, and until next time,